Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This month marks a new year. For those listening today, I ask the question a lot of times: am I allowed to take the steps to get better? Am I allowed to get better? In essence, this month's theme is entitled "A Brave Healing," which focuses on the deeper conversations that may lead to questions like: is it better to appear like one is doing well, or actually be doing well? And I think as we start 2025, as many of us or some of us may feel this need to change or to better, or maybe you're just overwhelmed. I thought that this month's theme, as we transition to 2025, was relevant to talk about. I will be the one starting this month's theme, and hope to see guests partake in this discussion. I want to also say to disclaimer: for those in crisis, please seek appropriate professional help immediately. The 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline is available for those in the States. In other countries, in South Korea, it's 112. It's a suicide hotline. Sri Lanka, it's 011-057-2222-662. And in Sudan, it is 249-11-555-253. Like every other podcast that I've been doing as of late, I've been always suggesting, and others have said it better, but more importantly, that I feel that to discuss topics like this, you need more angles of approach. Brené Brown says it this way: asking for help is a power move. It's a sign of strength to ask and a sign of strength to fight off judgment when others raise their hand. When I think about a brave healing, and also see that this is this month's theme and this quote, it begged me to ask the question: why do you, or in this case, why do I feel it's maybe hard to ask for help today? From your experience, I think there's a generalized concept of generalizing. In essence, a lot of times we all know the should have statements are not very helpful, but we keep doing it. So there must be something there that provides that avenue of maybe short-term relief. I think I said this in other podcasts before, but I do my best work when I slow down. And I think also the concept of self-respect. A lot of times it may be more focused on the words or defending one's stance, but self-respect can also do with your time. Francis de Sales, I hope I said that correctly, says it this way: have patience with all things, but first of all, with yourself. It's easy to tell someone, "Oh, don't worry," but one of the things that happens, at least from my experience, being the one seeing it and being the one worried, is it doesn't really help unless I believe that I shouldn't worry. And even then, it can be hard. Sometimes I remember, even in my case, the best illustration I could share is like my sink faucet handle just broke off or is missing, and I'm just trying to find a way to turn it off. A British proverb, as we enter there's a lot of angles when you think about brave healing. Brave is always associated of more of an illustration of someone helping others, being brave to risk one's life, but a lot of times we don't think about the intrinsic or the internal bravery, and the bravery to say I am valued enough to heal. I'm valued enough to take the steps, which may be overwhelming. And sometimes, if we're not careful, We may have porous boundaries, which may allow a lot of people to have a lot of opinions. Whether they, it's not a question of whether they care. A lot of times they do care, but I like this British proverb. It says, "Too many cooks spoil the broth." Eventually, at the end of the day, who's going to live the life that is struggling? The person who is actually struggling, not everyone else. Um, we may have insight. We may want to share what may be helpful, but at the end of the day, at least from what I've experienced, it only really, I guess, germinates or kind of, how can I say, it only really becomes more sustained, and there's no permanence in this, but it only kind of becomes more stable or more in a stronger foundation if the person who is struggling is part of the process. Period. You could say a lot of things. You could say, "Oh, I didn't have, I didn't do that." This person is lazy. I think we have a lot of lazy actions, possibly, but I don't think inherently people are lazy. They may not think they have the opportunity or the ability to do anything, but in the concept of laziness, just to be lazy, um, at least from my experience, I know that if you find something that someone's passionate about or feels allowed to do or work or even make mistakes, um, while they go on to better themselves, I find that more helpful. Um, and as we talk about this topic, and as we talk about the new year, and as we talk about concepts, when we think about healing, it comes in various different forms. I know mental health and substance use and different umbrellas are usually showcased on this channel, but it can be anything when it comes to healing. And the biggest barriers when addressing healing are being brave enough to allow yourself the time and value to address it. So, in essence, if I feel I'm a piece of crap or not worth it because I should have been somewhere else, I should have saved so much money, I should have had a certain title, if I should have, and the question I ask myself and those who sometimes I work with is, when is there ever time for you to address any of this? Are you allowed, again, to be better? I'm not trying to simplify this illustration, but if you don't feel you deserve or allow or allowed healing, most things may feel unreachable to take those steps. I can only say this strongly because I felt it. And it's not because someone actually told me this, but it's definitely during my journey. I did feel for a longest time that I wasn't allowed to get better. Now, does that guarantee better? No. A lot of these, especially when it comes to mental health, and a lot of these, there's no cure, but there's ways to work through them, around them, and to improve on how we handle and respond to them. I kind of said this, but in what ways have you been able to address your barriers regarding addressing areas of need? Well, I think one concept for me was, and it sounds weird to say it this way, but I think this is the best direct way, is no one will understand you, and that's okay. I think it's important that it's okay, because if we are so motivated, at least from my experience, to have people understand you, the comments kind of feelings I have experienced, and those who I have talked to about this concept, is one word. A couple words, but a short sentence: exhausted. Exhausted and disappointed. And I think it's not entirely um, a bad thing in regards to someone's goals. I think if I was determined to have people or those close to me to understand, and let's say I feel that they did understand, but it kind of in essence restricts me to think or beyond that, and it's in some ways very unrealistic that that person will be there in that capacity as life and everything changes around me. So I think it's kind of, in some senses, a growing pain. And some people may be listening and saying, "Well, I never had that issue. I did, and that's great." However, people who have, it is a struggle to, provide those barriers, especially if, then that's where the stigma really can be corrosive. Person maybe do well, but they have SMI or serious mental illness or something, and for the longest time they thought they cannot, and a lot of fear surrounding that, and that in itself can be its barrier because you don't feel you're deserving of it. However, these are individualized, and that's basically my point. Um, Ways to address needs is to address specific needs to specifically you. I always kind of say, I try to remind myself, personalize your care, but do not personalize what happens while you go on that journey, because a lot of times maybe the services, miscommunication, people may not understand. It doesn't do anyone who is struggling with mental health issues, substance use issues, or any other issues to kind of essence be apologetic about treatments, things not working. It's important to voice them, to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I know this is the fifth medicine, or this is the fifth treatment, or this is the fifth approach, but it's still not working." But those things, even for people who are supported, people who have good, maybe healthy, strong support, you may find even hard too, because you don't want to be bothersome. So can you imagine someone who doesn't even feel that they're worth the time of anyone's day to navigate through this? So in regards to barriers, it's not very uncommon, and it's, for me, how I was able to address this by little. I stopped feeling the need. I would share. I'm very blessed with my family, my wife, and I will share what I can. However, I try to get to the derivative and the time that I have. What can I do to actually address this? And it will be this elongated process. And I guess the second bit of this, and I know there's more, but is to be okay that things are kind of unfinished. I may get insight on one spectrum of my life, but I may be lacking in other areas. But of being forgiving and kind, that these concepts may not work as fast as you like. But again, it goes back to, are you allowed to take those steps, those little steps, and are you allowed that time? New Year's resolutions attempts to address this idea, but usually without consistency or follow through, just because it's so generalized. If I say I want to lose weight, I want to be healthier, but to what end? If I erase everything about me, about where I came from and why this is important to me, I'm just saying from my experience, it gets harder and harder to do. Just because it's good. It's good. Why? It's good because I want to be healthy. Why? And going through those kind of track, and that has helped me. But it's increasingly hard. I'm not saying it's easy. There's certain areas that are I'm still at the first phase of questions. And that kind of leads into, why do you think many have failed addressing their New Year's resolution because I feel at times, um, first, there may be other steps to get there. And um, and again, just from my experience, it could just be partially the pressure of wanting to be healthy because everyone's doing it, or even though it's something you want to do, but you generalize it. But putting in the work of knowing and truly knowing why you want to do it, and knowing that you may fail, and allowing you that kindness to fail. One concepts I remember, especially young people. I was in a church and I was doing audio, and a lot of times, some people, especially up front, they want to sing and sound well, which is understandable. But my whole thing was, you also have to allow the people I'm trying to train to fail. Like, in essence, to make certain small mistakes. Sometimes, and I'm not saying this is common, people didn't like that. And they didn't like it because how it impacted them, how they saw it. But from my vantage point, it was more, if you don't allow people to make mistakes, or they cannot make mistakes, they can't really learn or grow very effectively. So I think if we're allowed to do this in our minds when we make New Year's resolutions, it may be more helpful than saying, no, you cannot make any mistakes. And a lot of times it may, at least for me, that kindness can do a lot of things to maybe even seeing through some of the resolutions that you may have. What have you seen or has helped you address some of the more difficult areas of need? Well, again, it's always dig deeper. Like, I think someone I knew used to say that in the religious sense, in church, always deeper. Number, I kind of coined it from, I guess, kind of relates to how never be be curious. Like, be curious about your life. Be curious about what's working and what's not. And that has helped some of the more difficult areas. Self-image, navigating. Sometimes, I would say most times, just from my experience, the biggest barriers are not the ones outside that we see. The biggest barriers what are in our minds, of what we feel maybe we don't deserve, we feel, and we may put ourselves in some negative thinking or thought. And if you are feeling this way, and it continues, I'm not saying there's no self-help for everything. Obviously, there are therapists, there's mental health professionals, there's a lot of different fields that may be helpful. So I do encourage you to get help. Don't wait till it is overwhelming. But if you are struggling and you do feel that you need a little bit of help, like I said, that, like Brian Brown said earlier, in this podcast, as we started, asking for help is a power move. It is not easy, especially as an adult, to ask for help, because we have this misconception that we need to be somewhere further. And I'll say this: the problem also I have about that is it erases who you are. In this general sense, we overgeneralize what we may be experiencing. But I want to pause there and then give you a little updates. Revive Ministries. We're doing well, in the sense that I'm excited to keep doing this. I appreciate those who are listening. I'm always seeking more guests. Trying to push out episodes every Thursday can be hard, especially with the scheduling that is. But we are still trying to pursue that. We're also trying to open up doors to having others who feel they have a musical talent and they want to share, to email us at it's on the website. And let me just get it real quick. So you can email us regarding anything that you are maybe experiencing, or it's at info@reviveministriesfl.com. Just reach out to us, and if you want to, I want to incorporate, because I know for me, and Revive Ministries has been more of a platform for us to continue having these conversations in a safe space. But I know not everyone wants to talk. So, and I like music, and I think it's very expressive and very powerful and can be very cathartic. So, if you are someone who wants to, just email us at info@reviveministriesfl.com. It's, I think, right here, info@reviveministriesfl.com. And just let us know that you have interest. We're still trying to figure out how it will look. Try to have Music Monday, and it's been kind of hectic to kind of find some consistency that makes sense. But in essence, I do want to incorporate music as part of what we do. And and I just want to also say that I appreciate each one of you, those who are listening, those who have been guests before. You make this much easier to do. And in addition, I do want to say that to really look into the website and also the YouTube channel. We do have both audio and video, obviously. If you're watching this, but I do feel sometimes it's not expressed as openly, so I will also try to find ways to update you on the website, especially. And if you have any other questions, if you're a listener for some time, again, I want to say thank you. And if you want to know what is new, or you're just wondering what's going on, or how you may want to participate, the direct ways through info. And even if you want to be a guest, let us know. And those are the updates. And again, I know we're finishing up. Happy holidays for those, and Happy New Year. And there's been some real tragedies I just want to mention, and then my prayers go out to those who passed away in the plane crash in Korea, but and their families. But with that being said, I just want to say thank you for all you who listened all these since 2019, and we're keep pushing on. And I guess the update really is that we're keep moving on, and we keep trying to expand reasonably. And I just want to say I appreciate each one of you. Moving on to a brave healing as we continue this episode, I want to shift our attention to saturation of information. I was listening to a video on YouTube, but also I really like the concept that he presents. There was and it's about how we as a society are handling information, and it may give a little different angle. Like I said, different angles may paint a bigger picture, more clear picture. And this is a quote from Yuval Noah Harari, Homo Deus, History of Tomorrow. He says this way: in the past, censorship worked by blocking the flow of information. In the 21st century, censorship works by flooding people with irrelevant information. In ancient times, having power meant having access to, I guess it was supposed to be data. Today, having power means knowing what to ignore. Um, I find this, concept of just uh, even how we look at information. It's not how much you know. It's knowing knowing what information to ignore. I felt that was very interesting, especially how um, overwhelmed we are. And I think it follows with what we are talking about. There's a lot of information out there that um, can be depressing, can be overwhelming, can feel, and we may have the tendency to at times overgeneralize. And I think that's why I included this when it comes to saturation of information and how being able to set up boundaries around it. We have our biases, whether we like to believe it or not. But as I said a long time ago, we learn the most from the people we don't agree with. So, being willing to experience discomfort. So, when I say, are you allowed to get better? Are you allowed to experience discomfort? If you're struggling with something, maybe not visually seen, but it's still a struggle. The expectation may be that it will be uncomfortable, and it's not to be patronizing. It's just something that sometimes we lose the connection to. So if I'm struggling with a mental illness and it's inconvenient, it's inconvenient, but it's also going to be discomforting while I navigate to find some way to approach and address it. Brave healing is a concept, this theme, because it's the first time I'm using this theme, that I think is relevant today. With many barriers that can stem from overinformation, interpersonal barriers, and self-image barriers. In regards to that, may be the barrier that prevents us to saying, I need help. If we have over information, but we immobilize, we don't act or address it, the information becomes inert. It doesn't help us. So I'm excited to continue this conversation later on this month. And if there, sometimes, we'll do an exclusive video that on the YouTube, but maybe not on audio. It gets confusing. So if you want to get all get updates, like I said, go on the website. But if you have any questions, because sometimes scheduling doesn't allow every Thursday to have an episode. Doesn't mean we're not stopping. I know it's, I try to be as consistent as I can. Our time and scheduling doesn't always help. Doesn't always work the way we'd like. But again, a brave healing. There's a new theme. I'm excited about this theme because I think we put less weight or stock on being brave to actually ask for those help and take those steps. And it's expansive and very holistic in how we think about it, because it's, are you allowed to get better? Doesn't mean are you allowed to go there. Yeah, you have the choice to go there, but will yourself allow you to go there, or will other things get in the way? And it can go deeper and deeper. Kind of answered this, but when thinking about this month theme, what does brave healing mean to you today? I think it means that many different things, but I think it kind of centers on how we may be caught up and we may lose touch of what is a priority for us. If we're struggling, we could do 12 different things because we feel that we need to, because society dictates, or we feel that this shouldn't happen, or we overgeneralize, but we do 12 things that don't either address it or we don't even complete, which even further maybe discourages us. So I think brave healing really means that, it is recognizing that times have changed. We can't really take the model from before. Um, we have more information today than we ever did. Um, and not even just information, just luxuries that 300-400 years ago, only the top people would experience. But it's not to say that it's not about addressing how much we maybe take for granted, because we live in this construct. Like, it's not like I'm the only one. The society, at least portions of society in this world are we have conveniences that we never had. But again, it's not the focus on that. It's the focus that things have changed. So when it thinks about our healing, and with so much information, and just going back to this, in the past, censorship worked by blocking the flow of information. In the 21st century, censorship works by flooding people with irrelevant information. It's not and there's so much access. So when you think about healing, in essence, our mind, the way we look at it may need to change. And it's not that there is one way or there's a better way. It's just finding a way that works for you with your context. Wrapping up this thought from M. Scott Peck, he says, until you value yourself, you won't value your time. Until you value your time, you will not do anything with it. But even more so, a lot of times we try to solve problems the same way we created them, or we try to solve problems that hold less substance, because it's a generalized solution, which I, for one, don't really see very helpful, because what may work for me may not work for those others. So knowing oneself, allowing oneself to have the time to know oneself, and answering the question honestly and truthfully if you're allowed to get better. And if you say, I feel sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not, and that's where I feel this is relevant. So if it's a family, if you feel overwhelmed that interpersonal barriers, this is, culturally, I shouldn't be this way, or other barriers. I should be promoted. I should be, going on this vacation. I should have these things. The should statements eventually just clouds, from my experience, clouds what may be more helpful. Maybe you want to do these things, but there may be steps. Are you allowed to do those steps? Are you allowed the time to do those steps? And I think these concepts, these thoughts, are at least relevant, and from my experience, are very vital and very helpful when I recognize that they needed to be addressed. Final thoughts I just want to share with those who are listening. When I say be kinder to yourself, it's also be kinder with your time. Self-respect is not just one direction. Someone could say something negative to me or bad to me, and that's disrespectful. But also respect your time. If you're overwhelmed, find a way to address it. Everyone's situation is different, so there's no specific thing I would say, but be kinder to yourself. As M. Scott Peck says, until you value yourself, you won't value your time. Until you value your time, you will not do anything with it. Again, Happy New Year for all who support and listen to us. It really means a lot to us. And I just wanted to share real quick, to stay updated with Revive Ministries through various platforms, ReviveMinistryFL.com is our website, and our YouTube channel. I encourage you to try to make that more an emphasis. But if whatever platform you you prefer. I just want to say again, thank you for listening. This is Goodbye from Revive Ministries, leaving us last. It's actually a proverb. It's from a Korean proverb. It says, "The water downstream is clean only when the water upstream is